So I'm always excited to speak to young people about mental health issues. But sometimes mental health, young people, do you think this is a relevant topic to you guys? Let's see. How many of you have lost sleep over something? Raise your hands, let's see. Okay. How about losing appetite? Okay. Okay. Have you stepped into a room and then you can't remember what you came there for? Okay, so I'm talking to the right people. So I was presenting at a certain place, and then we went out for lunch, and we had lunch, and I remember I was sitting with one of the children at that house, the person who was hosting us, beautiful young lady. And when I went back in the afternoon to now continue with the presentation, I got up and then I said to her, "Please get my glasses." And she looked at me in a strange way. And I wondered, the hostess seemed like a very good mother. I'm sure she must be well trained. She doesn't want to go back to just pick my glasses from the table. So maybe she doesn't know where they are. And I said, where we were sitting at that table. She again looked at me in a very strange way and then went. Before she came back, I don't know what happened, but I wanted to rub my eyes. And what did I see on my face? I was wearing them. So that's why she was looking very strangely at me. Yeah. So over the week, one of my sisters was sharing with me a story, very sad story, where robbers, a couple of men, broke into one of the neighbors' house because they knew that she keeps money. They had run a business, and so they knew that these people keep what? Keep lots of cash. And so they broke in and they started beating the couple, like beating them. Sadly, they didn't have the cash on that day. But the robbers couldn't believe that they did not have their cash. So they beat them so hard. It was very traumatic. Lots of blood, turned the house upside down, and still they didn't get them. So the more they couldn't get the money, the harder they beat them. What would you do if you stayed in that neighborhood and you are at risk for robbers coming in to beat you for your money? What do people do here in Rwanda? Can you afford to? Yes. You strongly secure the house. Do you see how he's even explaining the strong, right? You strongly secure the house. Okay. So would you go to bed without checking the locks, checking the windows, checking the security? No. How many of us go to bed without checking our security? How many of us live the day without checking? So today we want to talk about the relationship between the body and the mind and how you need to guard your mind because it is your house. Okay, so let's start by seeing the connection between the body and the mind. Okay, I just want you to sit comfortably, put your feet on the floor and feel the ground beneath you. You feel the ground, right? Right, and you feel your bumties on the chair, your back on the chair, if you've got a chair. Okay, I want you to close your eyes just for a short while. And close your eyes, it's going to help you to concentrate. Okay, now I want you to imagine a lemon. What is a lemon called in Ndebele? Yes, lemon, right? So that lemon, what color is your lemon? Yellow. So if it's green, it's going to have hard peels. If it's yellow, it's going to be very juicy. I want you to start peeling your lemon. Imagine that you are peeling it and start moving your hands the way you'd peel the lemon. Just move your hands and peel your lemon. Peel it. Do you smell that lemon smell from the peels? When you are done, now you've got this white stuff on your hands, right? Just split it. And then take one segment and pop it into your mouth. I hear some sounds. Start chewing. Chew, 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 toss it. Sense that liquid. Pay attention to your face. Pay attention to your mouth. Take another segment. Pop it in, and again start chewing. If only you could see your faces. You can open your eyes and... Right, what did you notice? I heard some sounds. What was happening? Sour. I saw some ugly faces. What was happening? You're tasting the lemon. Okay? Anything happened to your saliva? What did you notice? I see some people swallowing even now. What are you swallowing? What's happening? Excess saliva. How many of you got excess saliva? Raise your hands. Let's see. Okay. How many of you made sounds? Raise your hands. Let's see. How many of you were twisting their faces? Okay, so raise your hand if you did anything. Just raise your hand. Let's see. If you felt anything, if you did anything, raise your hands. Raise them high. Let's see. Look around you. You see all those hands. Guys, where is the lemon? So the lemon is in the mind. So this is true about the mind. Your mind does not know whether something is real or not. And whatever your mind dwells on, your body starts reacting. Does that make sense? Is there a number which, when you see it ringing, your heart can start beating faster? And your voice even changes. Right? So what we are simply learning is that our mind affects the body. And it actually affects the body in a very strange way. There was a study on the brain to see the impact of the mind on the actual brain structures. So in the UK, before the introduction of Google Maps and SatNav, before the introduction of that voice that directs you, people had to know routes by heart, right? So that study looked at taxi drivers who had driven for over 20 years, scanned the brain to see the size of the brain structure which is responsible for memory, their hippocampus. Lo and behold, people who had driven for longer years, their hippocampus had enlarged because they had to memorize. So the part of the brain which is responsible for memory, it's like it's going to the gym, right? And it becomes bigger. Does that make sense? Those who just use Google Maps, they are not even thinking, they're just listening to the voice and following. Their hippocampus was, their hippocampuses were smaller. Does that make sense? Yes. Then there are studies that show that people who abuse drugs, people who are addicted, their brain pathways become so strengthened that it's hard to leave addictions. Am I talking to someone? So whatever we do, it actually affects our bodies physically. So we say physiologically, to say even the structure of your brain changes. Does that make sense? Were you aware that even the structure of your brain changes? And some of the changes are sometimes irreversible or very hard to to reverse. Okay, so what we are going to talk about today is how to guard the brain, because the brain affects the body, and likewise the body also affects the brain. And God says your body is my temple, isn't it? So we want to see how we can guard our bodies, our minds, because they are the temple of God. If you are going to have robbers coming with machetes and knives and guns, what are you going to do? You are going to guard your house so that it is strong. Okay. What are some of the things that we need to do? First of all, we need to take charge of our lives. When you talk about mental health, depression, he spoke about anxiety, he was talking about the stress that the prodigal son was going through. Some of those things, first of all, we need to realize that we may not be in control of what happens around us. There are things that happen that we are not in control of. So stop asking questions. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Things will happen. We may not have the answers, but our solution or what we need to be responsible for is to take charge and see what we do out of that. What are some of the things that happen to us? Negative things that make us feel bad. Sometimes you make bad decisions. You've sold your body for pizza. You've sold your body for a relationship. It's a reality. You make mistakes, isn't it? But you know what he said? He says God does not wait for you to be transformed. He wants you as you are. What you simply need to do is to take charge of your life, right? And then go to him as you are. The Bible tells us of how the devil accuses us of the real things that have actually happened in our lives. The devil will come and whisper to you, Michelle. But the Bible tells us that God actually responds on your behalf and says to the devil, is this not a log that I have snatched from the fire? Does that make sense? When you have been snatched from the fire, you are going to be scarred. After burning a little bit, you are going to be black from the fire. But God is saying, Michelle is a log that I snatched from the fire. I know that she is scarred, and he even instructs that she be given a white robe and a tag that says, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. Am I talking to someone? Yes. You may have made wrong decisions. It's normal. We make wrong decisions. But the Lord is there to help us, to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Okay? Some of the things, it's not necessarily entirely our fault. So when I grew up, people would say, oh, this one looks like her mother. Apparently, my mother is beautiful, and so I would take it to mean they are saying I am beautiful. Right? What I didn't realize is that I actually inherited everything of my mother. Hypertension, obesity, arthritis. Does that make sense? So now as I grow, I see that every health condition that my mother has, I also have it. The power of genetics. There are some things that we have inherited from our families. You might actually come from a bad family, I'm sorry to say. There are families that are bad, and you know it. You might actually come from, so some of the children that we see, the young people that we see, are struggling with broken families, fighting families, families that are riddled with witchcraft. You are aware of those things, isn't it? Witchcraft. It is real. We are not scared of it because we are children of God. You might actually be coming from a place of poverty. So some of the challenges that young people are facing in universities are financial problems. They send you here, you have no money for tax, you have no pocket money, maybe even the fees are not paid. Some children will say, I get so embarrassed every time when there's a list for people to be sent home, I am on that list. So people will know that every time when the fees people are coming, you are one of the people who's going to be chased away. Are you going to sit there and say and blame your circumstances? You need to take charge of your life. It doesn't matter what kind of family you are coming from. We see so many people who have been raped, who have been abused by their relatives. Strange things are happening in this life. Fathers raping their own daughters. Relatives, uncles raping their own relatives. And sometimes people try to talk about it and parents don't understand because sometimes, in courts they don't understand, maybe they do, but they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to address it. Perhaps the person who has abused you is the one who is funding everyone in that family. He's the wealthiest, he's the powerful one, we don't know what kind of power. Sometimes it's political power, sometimes it's financial power, whatever kind of power, or maybe even witchcraft power. And so either no one believes you, or no one. So one of my, the young ladies I was working with, she says, I've tried to commit suicide 4 times, and sadly I have not succeeded. I hope one day I will manage. Because she is carrying a burden of sexual assault from very close family members, and nobody believes her. So they'll say, does that happen? Like, how is that possible? So, as I think about it, and perhaps you are sitting there and you are thinking, your life is very negative because of the circumstances, I also realize that even negative things happen even in the royal households. Tamar, who was of the whole royal household, was raped by her own brother. Are we together? Because sometimes people waste time, not to minimize how you are feeling, but perhaps you are asking the wrong questions. Why did this happen to me? Sometimes we don't have that answer to that question. Why it happens, we don't know. But what we know is that in the Lord, we have salvation. In the Lord, we can get peace that surpasseth all understanding. Okay. It says here, in the ministry of healing, in the way that leads to the city of God, there are no difficulties which those who trust in him may not overcome. What is your difficulty? Is it fees? Is it academic work? Is it relationships? What is it? Is it relatives? It says there are no dangers which they may not escape. There is not a sorrow, not a grievance, not a human weakness for which he has not provided a remedy. Sometimes we look inward and we look at what we have and the struggles that we have. We are not designed to be able to solve those problems because we are just human. What should we do instead? We should cast it onto the Lord. Does that make sense? Casting it onto the Lord. So, number 1, negative things will happen. Negative things will happen. They happen to the poor, they happen to the rich, they happen to the smart ones, they happen to everyone. They will happen even to you. Actually, when Jesus is leaving, he says, I am not taking you out of the world. I'm leaving you in the world, but I'm going to be with you. Okay, so one of the things that you need to help to do is to strengthen your relationship with God. So that whatever is happening, you are casting. Whatever happens, you are casting. Psalms 55 verse 22, it says, so whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, whatever is praiseworthy, what should you do? Think on this. When you think about negative things, which might be true, whether they are true or not, it's going to impact on your brain. It's going to impact on your body. So you should actively avoid thinking about negative things. Notice, I'm not saying you should stop, because it may not be possible to completely what? Stop. Because sometimes the genes are in your body that are affecting how you are. So you have a choice to dwell on the thoughts or to acknowledge them and move on. Does that make sense? So I was talking to you about my mother's conditions, and I didn't think seriously about them until I became extremely well to be in ICU for a couple of weeks. That's when I realized, I'm my mother's what? Daughter. I have to be fighting these diseases. And my dad had diabetes. When he died, he was becoming blind. Do you see? So a couple of conditions that I have to be battling, and I've been doing it in style. I may not be able to completely not suffer from them because I already have some of them, but I'm going to minimize the impact they have on me. Does that make sense? So I embarked on a weight loss journey. With time, I'm going to be as thin as Elder Machando. Yeah, to try and get rid of some of the conditions. And I've also not been doing it by myself. Just yesterday, there was a time when I was beginning to think, I think I've lost enough weight. You know, when you lose weight, people will start saying, are you okay? Are you okay? And one of my sisters, who was very confrontational, she said, my sister, now you are looking old because your cheeks are falling. And also here, it's showing. I went to the mirror and I noticed really it was looking like an old woman. And I started doing neck exercises. But I said to myself, looking old is hard. But also illness is hard. So you need to choose your hard. Okay. And so this past week, I decided to go to a lifestyle center. We have an Adventist lifestyle center where you learn a lot of healthful living and how you can. So they examined me and they told me, this is you are 53 years old, but according to your lifestyle and the diseases that are there and the biomarkers, you are a couple of years older. Okay? But here is the good news. They told me, if you follow a healthy lifestyle, you can actually reduce your years to about 48. I said, I'm on it. Right? So from tomorrow, we are starting a 100-day challenge. Additional weight loss and more physical exercise, healthy eating. After 100 days, please watch. Okay? 48. Yes, take away a couple of years. You know, one of the things that's helpful for your emotional health is to set goals. Because when you set goals, your brain gets set in a certain way. And when you achieve those goals, when you tick, daily when you do your to-do list and you tick, the brain releases a happiness chemical called dopamine. Do you see what you are robbing yourself of when you just wake up and you are not doing a checklist of what you plan to do for the week, what you plan to do for the day? Does that make sense? Because your brain will not know that you have achieved. But if you've got a to-do list and you tick, you feel good. So some of the treatments for depression that we do is called behavior activation. We will plan on behaviors that you need to activate. Simple things. Before you were depressed, what did you used to do? Oh, I used to do sports. I used to sing in the choir, you know. I used to play with friends. So what activities are you going to start picking up? What activities are you going to initiate? Behavior activation. Simple things like taking care of yourself, self-care, you know. going on the mirror, tying your hair in a certain way. I see a lot of ladies putting nice headbands. That self-care, the brain releases dopamine. No wonder why when someone is severely unwell, you are told to please bath him and let them go outside in the sun. Because the brain will release, out in the sun, the brain is going to release serotonin, another happiness chemical. Do you see that your happiness is where? In your hands. Behavior, activation, singing in the choir, just singing by itself is good. Socializing is good. So there are small things that you can actually do. Belonging to the choir like this, it gives you a sense of connectedness. And when you sing beautifully the way they did, and we are saying, Amen, your brain is releasing feel-good chemicals. Sadly, when you are depressed, when you are anxious, you want to withdraw from people. You don't want to take part in activities. So sometimes we get questions, how can I help my friend who is depressed? How can I help my friend who is... When you see that your friend is withdrawing, one of the things that you can do to support your friend is to reach out to them. The mistake that a lot of people make is, she's the one who has a problem, and now she's withdrawing, and yet she's the one who needs people. So they leave the person. The person will withdraw because they are not feeling well, right? Because they are thinking, okay, so let me tell you about how a person thinks and how it impacts on their emotions. Usually when someone is stressed, when someone is depressed, there is evidence that the part of their brain which is activated is the part that focuses on the inward things. When we go to sleep, when we are withdrawn, that it's that part of the body which is activated. So they don't want to think outside the box. They don't want to focus on the outside world. Does that make sense? They will focus even on themselves and not on the outside. One of the treatments for depression is to go out there so that you stop thinking about yourself and you start thinking about others. So doing charity work, for example, will take attention away from you and you start focusing on others. And it is very fulfilling. The people that you see doing a lot of charity work, the reason why they are happy and satisfied and happy to be giving is because when you give, your brain releases happiness chemicals. Does that make sense? Okay. However, when we are stressed, the brain does not keep quiet. It will still produce negative chemicals. There is a stress hormone called cortisol. Does that make sense? When you are stressed, your brain releases cortisol. When you are stressed, the part of your brain which is active, imagine, if we saw a snake in this room, like snake, what happens? Will you say, excuse me, I need to leave the room, there's a snake? What do? Even those heels that I'm seeing, they will be broken with people fleeing the room, isn't it? So what happens is, God in his wisdom, he puts a fight and flight mode, which is responsible for you to flee without even thinking about it. That's why you notice at an accident, if an accident happens, maybe someone has broken legs, they will pull themselves out of that car. Suppose it's going to burn, right? Flare up into flames. They will pull themselves away from the accident. And you'll be surprised at how they walked. Usually they themselves don't know how they walked, how they pulled themselves away from the site of the accident. It's because when you are in danger, there's a part of your brain, the amygdala, which is responsible for fear or flight. So this brain You know, if I'm bitten here, maybe by a mosquito, my brain will say, oh, mosquito. And then I will, usually, oh, if it's a mosquito, you will, and then you'll think about it later, isn't it? Again, that's your fear and flight. But if someone says something negative to me, I have got the time to process it and to decide whether I want to react or not. Which is why I'll say, it's only that now I'm older. Otherwise, right? But fear or flight things, the brain circumvents, is that the right word? Right? That it bypasses the part of the brain which is supposed to sit down, have meetings, and say this pros and cons of this, pros and cons of that. Does that make sense? So you don't sit and say pros and cons of running away from a snake. The brain bypasses that, and you run for your life. Does that make sense? So what happens is, when you are worried, when you are distressed, when you are anxious, when you are depressed, when you are ruminating, the part of the brain that's supposed to give you good judgment is slowed down. Because which part is now active? The fear or flight mode. And with time, you'll notice that a person who is continuously worried ceases to make good decisions. You are asking them, why are you in this abusive relationship? Why? I don't know. And they will continue going back to that relationship. Does that make sense? They will start procrastinating. They will start delaying in making decisions. They start not engaging in reasonable things. Guys, be patient with these people. Be patient even with yourself. When you are in consistent worry, your brain is not functioning as it should. It's bypassing the part of the brain which is responsible for good judgment and decision making. Does that make sense? But there's a way. You can shake that off by, for example, I told you, not focusing on yourself, but focusing on others. But one of the things that blasts and resets you into the correct thinking mode is exercise. How many of you exercise here? Be honest. Raise your hands. Let's see. I see. So some of the challenges that we face with people, say they are going through, maybe they are struggling with depression, and you say to them, let's do exercise is going to be helpful. What are you going to do? Oh yeah, I'm going to go for a walk. And you know what they do? They will stroll for about 15 minutes and come back. When you are exercising for emotional wellness, you need to shake yourself up. The way we run when a snake comes, right? The way we fight for life imagine that your head had been pushed into a bucket of water. Do you stroll out of the bucket of water? You fight hard, isn't it? So that you can breathe. Are we together? So exercise should be activity that actually makes fat cry. We should see a little sweat happening and your heart rate increasing. Does that make sense? Because they will come back and they'll say, I was exercising, but it looks like nothing is changing. And I say, what did you do? Oh, I went out for a walk. Walk for how long? About 15, I think maybe 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. You actually need to shake yourself up. Does that make sense? So in my battle with disease, just yesterday I was buying weights for my mom, the 4 kg weights, and I went to the gym, to the shop that sells gym stuff. I said, I'm looking for weights, and because my mom, because of the arthritis. So when my sister said, you are looking old, I had started to slow down on my exercise. But then I received a phone call, oh, Mom, she can't walk, we have to hire a wheelchair. All of a sudden, her legs are extremely painful. So I went there. Right now, she's walking with a crutch, arthritis. And I already have arthritic pain. So I decided, we have to up our game. Does that make sense? So, and I'm not doing it by myself. I am also doing it with her. So I was buying weights because now she cannot walk properly. but she can do weight stuff. And the people in the shop were saying, I said, how much are boxing gloves? How much are... And they said, who do you want to fight? I said, it's 4 people. Hypertension, arthritis, diabetes. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'm out here to box the diseases. Does that make sense? And I'm not doing it by myself. So whenever you engage in something that is constructive, something that is useful, take your friends with you. Because if you don't, they are the ones who are going to drag you back. If they don't want, change friends. So don't entertain negative things. Don't focus on negative things. Erase negative things. Romans 12, verse 12, it says, do not conform to the patterns of this world. Okay. Psalms 55:22 says, cast your burden on the Lord and he will sustain you. He will never allow you to be what? To be shaken. Do you get it? The Lord will sustain you and he will not allow you to be shaken. Instead, replace negative thinking. How do you replace negative thinking? If you remember, the Bible tells us about the person who had an evil spirit, and then the evil spirit was cast out and the house, which is the person, became clean, isn't it? But what did the person do? They left the space empty, right? What did the evil spirit do? It came back. Did it come back by itself? It actually called in others. Are we together? So you might be struggling with something, and this morning Ndiga has been telling us, if you give your life to God, He's waiting for you as you are. Don't wait to stay as you are. Fill your mind with things that are helpful. Whatever is true, whatever is pure, whatever is clean. What are you spending your time watching? We are receiving a lot of sad messages from young people who are struggling with different kinds of addictions. I bumped into pornography when I was watching, when I asked for my sister's phone, or my brother's phone, or my uncle's laptop, and then I saw this and I became hooked, right? And it's affecting them so much. I didn't realize how much pornography, for example, and different kinds of addictions can affect a person. Pornography will lead to masturbation, and it leads to self-loathing. You feel bad. You know that what you are doing is terrible, and you hate yourself. When you hate yourself, you cannot focus on the outside, right? You are feeling guilty, you are feeling terrible, you are feeling dirty. And usually, sadly, people will reach out for more things that make them feel worse. Instead, replace that. If you say, a lot of people will say, I've tried stopping, I stop for a couple of weeks, and then I relapse. What you need is to start filling your mind with different things. One of the Pathfinder laws, what Pathfinder staff says, keep a song in your heart. What I've noticed amongst people who are addicted or amongst people who have problems with sexuality, they concentrate, they spend their days, they fill their hours consuming that which is harmful to them. So they know the lyrics from people who are practicing the sinful lives that they want to live. They follow those people, so their pathways become strengthened in that direction. And it's hard for you to move out. Does that make sense? Okay, so you need to make sure that you are filling yourself with that which is useful. If you are struggling with poverty, look for Bible verses that talk about your true identity. Like, what's the definition for poverty? What's the definition for richness? Is it a lot of money? No, because I remember this young lady, wearing mapata-pata, you know. We used to make donations for them regularly because they were very poor materially. But she asked to sing one day, and I remember a voice singing out loudly, "I'm a child of the King, I'm a child of the King." And she was looking it, and she believed it. She didn't need no shoes to know that she is a child of the King. Because shoes are only temporary, isn't it? Okay, so it's in knowing who you are, what your value is in God. Okay? Some of the things that you need to do, so I spoke about exercise. Some of the things you need to do is to sleep, to rest. Because rest has always been in God's plans. He created the earth and all the things that are in it, and on the seventh day, He rested. We also need to take rest as something that is important. I'm quite sure you've seen equipment, if it's not rested, it will eventually grind to a halt. And some of the rest is in sleeping, making sure that you are keeping appropriate hours of sleep and that you are sleeping in an environment that gives you the appropriate, it gives your brain the rest that it requires. What are some of the things? Blue light, which we get from our laptops and from our phones, robs us of about 60% of the quality of sleep that we are supposed to have. So you need about an hour for your brain to shut down from your phones and your laptops. So no going to bed with your phone. When you do that, you may not know it. The way the devil lied to Eve, saying to her, "You will not die for real." Are we not dying? We are. So when you rob yourself of, you may not see the impact of social media, the impact of the gadgets on your brain. But eventually, with time, your brain will surely die. There is evidence on brain scans for people who struggle with insomnia, people who don't sleep well, how their brain slowly dies. And their function is reduced. So things like dementia, for example, it could be some genetic disposition to it, but a lot of it is actually lifestyle. So dementia, which will happen in old age, some of it you are seeding it right now by not taking care of your sleep. How can you improve good sleep? Again, you need to exercise. Does that make sense? Yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do now before you get crutches like my mother. Okay. We may not be able to go back to young ages like you, but you are already young and you've got the capacity to improve the quality of your life. Illness, hard. Exercise is hard. Health is hard. Choose your hard. May the Lord bless you.
A big round of applause, please, for Dr. D. Maybe before you leave the podium, ma'am, I may have a question. So you were speaking about the pathways that are created in the brain because of the behaviors that we do. And you then mentioned in particular the issues to do with e-pornography and all. My question is, what makes it so difficult from the messages that we receive for someone who wants to leave a habit like that of pornography and masturbation and all? What makes it so difficult for them to leave, number one? Number two, in the same sense, and consuming this stuff makes you release dopamine in your head. So after the feel-good hormone has come in, why then do people feel depressed and feel bad afterwards if it is meant to make you feel good? And even if you have felt bad, and then you also want to do the same thing so that you feel good, so that you can feel bad.
Okay, so let me try to illustrate this. When you do positive things, when you bath, when you give compliments, when you hug, when you exercise, the brain releases dopamine, right? Real life issues, real people are real. We get a certain level of dopamine. But things that are artificial, things that are not real, when you take a picture and then what do you do it? You filter it. It looks perfect, isn't it? Right? When you watch movies and maybe they are playing maybe Maya Zuka being cruel to a child, you actually you become emotional, isn't it? And you might even cry. But so the brain does not know what is real and what is not real. And fake things give you huge amounts of dopamine. But it is not sustainable. Does that make sense? Because it's not real. Which is why if someone is watching pornography, this is how the journey starts. You watch a bit and you are shocked, isn't it? And then you will watch a bit. And then what usually then happens, you become used to it. And what do? You want to see even more hard things, hardcore pornography. So you move from, to extremely harder things because that excitement is not sustainable. So if it's drugs, for example, food might give you 100 units of dopamine. Exercise might give you 150 units of dopamine. When you do drugs, they will give you 1,500 units of dopamine. So the excitement shoots, right? But guess what? The brain is shaken. And when the excitement comes down, it will not take you to where you were. It will take you lower. That's why you cannot survive the addictions. Because your brain says, no, we are low. We need to get up. Does that make sense? And so you will take another drug or you watch another video of pornography and you will go up, but when you become used to the pornography, you are no longer going as high, right? And that's why you will search for something which will give you higher. Or you will watch more and more, and because the brain says, no, it was nice out there. Let's go back. Does that make sense? That's why you will want to go up. So this concept is very similar to a lot of negative things that we do. What is nicer? Ice cream, Lay's, and sadza. Ice cream and Lay's, isn't it? Isn't it? And fizzy drinks, isn't it? And chocolate, are we together? But when you eat real sadza and vegetables, it's not as good. But can you live on ice cream and Lay's? Can you live on chocolate? So that's what happens. But you just want more of it. You want more of it. And it's hard to stop. Which is why you need to choose your heart. Does that make sense? So to stop it is hard. And for some addictions, you actually need to go through proper treatment so that your brain starts to realign, starts to rewire, starts to learn to enjoy certain things. And it's possible. It's very possible. for you to start enjoying certain things again, but it's hard. That's why people then don't make enough effort to stop, because it is hard. So being hard is a fact. And that's why we say you have to be shaking it as if your bucket is in water and you are fighting for your life. It's possible. And again, when the brain gets wired, particularly, did you know that your brain starts growing from the moment, from inception in the womb, right? Your brain begins to develop. Actually, the brain is the bigger part of the body when you are young. But did you know that your body does not stop growing until the age of about 25-ish? Right? So as you are growing in adolescence, etc., your brain is still developing. You know, the Bible says train up a child. Why? It's because God knew that we need to establish the right pathways. Because he says when the person grows, they will never depart from it. So if you train your brain when you are still a child in certain pathways that are not useful, it will be hard to move away from those pathways. Does that make sense? So the best thing is to not even try. Because when you try, so things like alcohol, drugs, your brain becomes damaged because it's set in certain pathways. For people who start drinking or using substances below the age of, I think, about 14, 15, they have higher chances to become alcoholics or drug addicts compared to people who start later when their brain is fully matured. So you actually bend your brain if you start early, and it will be hard to straighten it. Does that make sense? Okay.
A round of applause, please. And thank you so much for that valuable information.